Hello people, welcome back to the TechPulse series. In the previous video, we have discussed on what is the procedure, what is the overall idea of TechPulse and why we are implementing this project. Now, coming in videos, we will be discussing each and every phase, what we are doing and why we are doing it. So starting today, we are going to discuss a very important thing which is the foundation of our project, a solid foundation. You see, many Python projects can be directly implemented using a root folder, a root directory, and the scripts written inside it, right? But that is not very efficient. For efficiency, what we are required to do is we need to create a solid foundation, a very scalable and efficiently operable foundation that will help us scale, debug, as well as implement our project in a very efficient manner, especially a large level project like TechPulse. Now, the first step is laying the foundation. Starting. Laying foundation has 10 steps, starting by creating the root repository. This is generally creating like a folder on our desktop or any place where we implementing this, right? After creating the root directory, what we are required to do is we are required to do two most important yet very basic steps in our implementation. First is the initialization of a Git repository. This has to be the first step. Now we know what Git is. What Git is, it's a version control system in which we will be tracking our changes that we are going to make in our application, right? And the other one is creating a Python isolated environment. Now, why we are doing that? Creating a Python isolated environment is very important, especially while we are implementing multiple projects on a same machine. So, what is meant by an isolated environment? What it means is it's like a bubble in which our project resides inside, and all of the Python libraries and their versions that we are working with, they stay isolated in this inside this bubble, or what we say the environment. The libraries inside this is perfectly isolated from all the libraries and all the installations that are done on different isolated environments and the machine itself. They stay intact and they stay without contact with the machine, right? At least in the overall libraries. So these are the two main important things. The first step is creating an initializing a Git repo, as well as creating a Python isolated environment. Right now, after performing these two steps, we need to implement the project folder structure, which is basically the architecture. Now, in my mind, since the start, I have this idea that TechPulse is going to be a large project which will eventually collect the data, parse it, load it into the database, extract it if required, perform analysis on it, create a dashboard for it, and as well as then implement the NLP processes as well as RAG implementation for generative AI and machine learning, right? So for all of these individual steps, what we will be doing is we will be creating a independent directory inside the root directory. For example, for all the ETL processes, we will be creating an ETL directory. For the data processes or logging processes, now again, logging is another thing. We will discuss it at the time of implementation. And logging is one of the most important steps in this any project development, right? For each of these steps, we will have a separate directory. For example, for ETL, there will be a separate directory. For database, it will be a separate directory. For scrapers, it will be a different directory. And for basically each and every phase must have a separate directory, so that it will be very helpful for us while debugging as well as while efficiently scaling the platform overall, right? Now, after creating the folder structure, in the root folder, we are required to create some few very important files, which are starting from requirements.txt. What this file is, it lists down all of the libraries that we have installed for our project, and it lists down inside the requirements.txt, including the version of that library that we have used. What is the benefit of it? Later on, when somebody else is working on our project and they are required to know what are all the libraries, instead of manually installing all the libraries, what they will do is they will immediately install the requirement.txt file. With help of this, all of the necessary libraries will be installed inside the project directory. When there is a git, there is a git ignore. So what we will do is, after implementation of the requirements.txt, we will create a git ignore file. The requirement of this is we do not want some confidential information to be pushed into the Git repository or to be open to the people, right? So what we are required to do is we are required to store that information in some files, and those files are not meant to be pushed to the Git repository. So we use the git ignore. We write those names, the names of those files inside the git ignore, and then when git is pushed, it ignores those files, right? The implementation of folder architecture as well as the important files have been created. What we will do from here is we will install the dependencies. Now moving on, in the process I realized that we are going to write a lot of code and there will be many files for these codes. So what we will do is we will create an src folder in which all of the code and scripts files will reside inside, again in separate directories. For example, for ETL there will be separated directory and all, and these all code will be written inside src, and the root directory will only have the documentation, the media if required, as well as the logging or configuration files, right? With this, our first implementation has been done. We have created a folder structure successfully, and then what we will do now, I am not implementing everything manually again because I have already implemented it before starting this content series, but I will walk you through in manageable detail and you can comment down whatever is required. Also, I'll be listing down my GitHub repository, and you can look into the commits list on how we implemented everything, right? So when we come to the ETL phase, or what we say, we come to the NLP phase, then I'll be working manually and implementing and showing you how we are doing everything, right? So yeah, so this was our second phase, I mean the first phase of the implementation of TechPulse, in which we have created a successfully scalable and efficient project structure. Now we will work upon this structure in the coming videos. Now the next phase will be the system design, how the data will flow in our system or in our uh, project, right? So yeah, stay connected and we'll talk soon.